evening, everyone, and welcome to WTOP-10's election night coverage.
Tonight, we're bringing you all of your election news.
From Oswego County all the way to the White House, we'll have the results right here on WTOP.
Over in the WTOP-10 studio, we have presidential election correspondent David Rienzo.
David will have the latest on everything going on with the presidential race.
We also have reporters Reilly Jones and Clarissa Karki out in the field.
Reilly is here on campus sharing student and faculty perspectives,
while Clarissa is in Oswego County covering an important federal race.
And we're your hosts. My name is Kenny Girard.
And I'm Madelynn Cummings. Welcome to WTOP-10's 2024 election night coverage.
Tonight we'll be taking a look at several races on the ballot in and around Oswego, taking place in New York and across the country.
Thanks to our research team working around the clock and AP News. They're giving us the latest information. We'll have live updates on each race as the results come in throughout the night, starting with an election taking place right in our backyard.
In the 24th Congressional District, stretching from the outskirts of Buffalo to Watertown, Democratic challenger David Wagenhauser is looking to pry the historically red Congress seat from incumbent Republican Representative Claudia Tenney, who won the district in 2022.
Wagenhauser is the newcomer to the national elections, running on a moderate Democrat platform and looking to bring money to the district by promoting educational and career opportunities in the 24th District. He previously served as the village trustee of Rockport. Tenney is no stranger to politics in upstate New York, running for and winning House seats in both the 22nd and 24th districts of New York. She's running a campaign focused on small businesses and is currently favored to win by a comfortable margin.
Now, just south of Oswego is the 22nd Congressional District, centering around Syracuse and stretching west towards Rome and Utica, in a district the whole nation will have their eye on tonight as incumbent Republican Brandon Williams looks to hold off Democrat John Mannion in one of the closest congressional races in the nation.
The two have received support from high-ranking officials in their parties as Democrats attempt to flip the House of Representatives. This election is through the district. Williams and Mannion are in their step with their political positions, on key issues like abortion and gun control, with Mannion currently favored to win by razor-thin margins.
And with Mannion running for Congress, he's leaving his old job representing New York's 50th district in the state Senate, now leaving Democrat Chris Ryan and Republican Nick Perro to race for the open seat stretching from Oswego to just outside of Syracuse.
Both candidates have a major focus on crime and the economy in New York on their platforms and have a close eye on Micron's involvement in the central New York area as the company looks to break grounds on the nation's largest chip-making complex north of Syracuse in the next year. The district was won by the Democrats by just 10 votes in 2022, and a similarly competitive race is expected this time as well.
In the race the nation is watching tonight, Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump will bring their highly publicized race for the White House to a close.
The race has been back and forth since Harris replaced Biden on the Democratic ticket, and we'll be watching the race closely as polls across the country start to close.
While polls in New York don't close until 9, some states are getting ahead of the game.
Our presidential election correspondent David Rienzo has what we know about the race so far. David?
Thanks, guys. So we already do have some initial results in. You can see that Oklahoma, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Indiana have already been declared for Donald Trump, giving him the lead for right now at 54% of the votes and 95% of Electoral College. But Kamala Harris still does have some of the votes in the Northeast from Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Maryland, and Delaware, all being declared in her favor. But we still do have a lot of polls still open, especially out west where the sun sets later, so the polls stay open for longer. But we do have a couple states which are soon to be declared. The states are still in the lead. We have some states that we know are going to be, or very sure are going to be red states in this election. And we also have some states that we know are going to be blue states in this election. But the story all comes down to these crucial swing states. You can see Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia, as well as Nevada and Arizona, are going to be crucial to watch for the rest of the night. So be sure to stay tuned for the rest of your presidential updates. But first, back to them at the desk.
Thank you, David.
Now, here on campus, students are anxiously awaiting the closure of the polls.
WTOP-10 reporter Reilly Jones is in the Marano Campus Center at SUNY Oswego's election watch party.
Reilly, how are students celebrating Election Day?
I'm not talking.
We apologize for some technical difficulties.
Well, coming up next, we'll hear from reporter Clarissa Karki, where she is in Oswego County.
And did you vote? What proposition was on the back of your ballot?
We'll have more on WTOP-10's 2024 election night coverage after the break.
Hey guys, it's me, Isabella Gomez, filling in for Smokey Bear because he's got more to say than just...
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Like, if you're outside enjoying a barbecue, don't let a hamburger distract you from fire safety. Make sure you aren't dumping your hot coals or ashes onto the ground because that could start a wildfire. So take wildfire prevention seriously and let's save the world one day at a time. Juntos con Smokey Bear, podemos hacerlo. Go to smokeybear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hey, I don't have much time. It's almost here. Listen closely, and whatever you do, don't panic.
Hello and welcome back to WTOP-10's election coverage.
We're keeping you up to date on election results in real time. Going off of the 24th Congressional District, it's made up of a large part of the Finger Lakes region of New York, covering most of the coast of Lake Ontario, and it stretches from the east of Buffalo almost to Watertown. However, this district excludes Rochester, which is included in the 25th District.
Now, Republican Representative Claudia Tenney is currently seeking election in the district after being elected in 2023. Her predecessor, Republican John Katko, served as district representative from 2015 to 2023. But the 24th district's race isn't the only thing on New Yorkers' ballots this year. A new amendment to the New York Constitution, which is being referred to as Prop 1, is causing a stir among New Yorkers. The amendment aims to protect those who may be victims of unfair treatment based on factors like sex, age, and ethnicity, and among other things.
It also provides protection against unfair treatment based on reproductive health, providing legal protection over abortion rights, birth control, and IVF. This is done by preventing future state laws banning abortion or prosecuting pregnancy outcomes like miscarriages. As Fike Katorski reports, New Yorkers had the chance to vote directly on the amendment.
For students who may not have voted in the past, seeing a proposal on the ballot can be unfamiliar territory. SUNY Oswego political science professor Dr. Josh Plensner says that Prop 1 on the New York State ballot is a proposition to alter the Constitution to include protections for people who are not currently protected by the Constitution's language.
It's an attempt to alter what would be a network of protections to folks that are, in some cases, currently covered by state law, but not the Constitution itself. So it's a pretty major change.
Specifically, the proposal amends Article 1, Section 11 in the New York Constitution, which protects against unequal treatment based on race, color, creed, and religion. Political science professor and director of global and international studies, Dr. Lisa Glidden, says that other protections currently in New York state laws can potentially be overturned or superseded by new statutes.
Prop 1 now is going to greatly expand the definitions for sex discrimination, gender discrimination, pregnancy discrimination.
Ethnicity, national origin, disability, and age are some other categories that would be protected from unequal treatment by Prop 1.
I think that people are fully expecting it to pass. Like it's like a 79% approval among New Yorkers. If it didn't, I think it would actually prompt some like significant like soul searching for what happened, like why something, which would be an interesting political question, why something that has so much support didn't pass in the end.
Dr. Plensner says that in order for the proposition to appear on your ballot, it has to pass through 2 legislative cycles, which can be difficult. After that, it is given over to New Yorkers to vote on directly.
We vote on these things because it's a power that we take really seriously. If we're going to change our state's constitution, the people need to be in charge of that.
Prop 1 is on the back of your ballot, so if you want to vote on it, you have to make sure you turn your ballot over before you put it through the machine.
Whether you vote at the polls or mail your ballot in, make sure to find and vote on Prop 1. Fike.
The update to the 1938 Equal Rights Amendment began back in 2019 with Democratic Senator Liz Krueger from Manhattan. Senator Krueger felt it was important to update the expectations of the amendment to include these new categories. The proposal has been approved by the Assembly and the Senate and is now up to voters to make the final decision.
Prop 1 has seen a range of reactions across the state since its proposal. After the overturning of Roe v. Wade in 2022, many reproductive rights advocates have been searching for support. Now, WTOP-10 reporter Reilly Jones is currently at a Vote Oswego event.
He is now standing by with a student voter who feels very passionately about Prop 1. Reilly?
How's it going, guys? Thank you all back at the studio. As we just saw in the package, I'm here with Dr. Josh Plensner, and he agreed to speak with us a little bit about Prop 1 and what it means to the community of Oswego. So, what does Prop 1 mean to the community?
Prop 1 for our community means a potential expansion of civil rights protections that are only available in statutory law right now, and if this is confirmed by voters in New York State, those protections will be cemented in the Constitution itself. So that kind of expansion of rights protections is deeply important for a lot of folks. It also invites a lot of criticism for a lot of folks.
And why is that something that students directly should care about?
Well, students are living in New York State, and because they're here, they can enjoy the potential protections of an expanded menu of civil rights action. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for speaking with us. Back to you guys at the studio.
Thanks, Reilly. If you're a SUNY Oswego student from New York City, your ballot may have looked a little different on the back. While the 24th District only has Prop 1 on the back of their ballot, New York City had several other topics to vote on.
These include Prop 2, which is a street cleaning and waste containers amendment which aims to give the sanitation department more power to enforce garbage rules across the city, and Prop 3, which would require the city council to undertake fiscal analysis before holding hearings or voters on laws. These are just 2 of the 5 other ballot proposals that are exclusive to New York City. But when we come back, we will have even more updates on the current polls.
So don't go anywhere. WTOP-10's election night coverage will be right back.
When you look at the number of disasters in the U.S., chances are every area will deal with some kind of emergency in the next decade. And between school, sports, and social lives, chances are you won't be with your kids when it happens. Will they know what to do? Ready.gov/kids has the educational tools and information to make the conversation easy. When the time comes, chances are they'll feel prepared, not scared. So talk with your family today.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. At the tone, please record your message.
Hey, I don't have much time. It's almost here. Listen closely, and whatever you do, don't panic.
Up to Dobson at the point. The cross-ice pass comes to Parise, who's going to extend the lead to 3, but the Columbus Blue Jackets, they're not going down without a fight. Puck loose, out in front of net.
Welcome back to the best show on WTOP. I'm your host, Miss Meg Trivia. And I'm Donovan.
We start things off in the pool as 4 members of the Oswego women's swimming and diving team have earned all SUNY honors. Oh, finally, got that old music back. Welcome live inside the Aurora studio for the newest episode of Sports.
Welcome back to WTOP-10's coverage of the 2024 election.
Kenny and I are here with 3 Vote Oswego students. This is Jacob Campo, Emma White, and Hallie Collins. How are you guys doing today?
We're good. We're good, yeah.
All right, perfect.
Well, let's get started. Vote Oswego, or what is Vote Oswego, and what's it like being involved?
So Vote Oswego is our campus's nonpartisan civic engagement organization. So our whole goal is to help voters become educated, help with their absentee ballot requests if they need it, or registration in general. And basically it's just, for some of us it's a class, or others it's an internship. So we're all just working to help as many people on campus and make a difficult process as easy as possible.
Perfect. And what have you done besides that to prepare for this upcoming election?
We've worked a lot of events around campus, so most people on campus have probably seen us way too many times. We've set up tables, helped people with their absentee ballots and registration, like I said, but we've also hosted events like our film festival, which was in junction with our cinema studies and creative writing. But we've also had parties like the mail-in ballot party and everything else, just to up civic engagement and help people with whatever questions they have.
And so far, what have you guys learned throughout this experience?
I think we've learned how much work actually goes into a campaign, and event planning, tabling, canvassing. It's a lot of hard work, and I think that was something we didn't really know before, but we've learned that together, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
And in regards to this election, what do you guys think are the most important issues on the ballot?
So I think some very important issues that we've seen through exit polls and just polling in general before the actual election night, we've seen that democracy, economy, and what was the third one?
Kind of support or like protection of our democracy.
Yeah. So we've seen some very high issues, which the economy has been an issue for the past 3 years for a lot of Americans. And so we see that as a big focus, especially in certain swing states.
And which states you guys think are going to be the most pivotal in deciding this election, and which states are you guys personally going to be watching?
So definitely Pennsylvania. Well, I think the election hinges on Pennsylvania. States like North Carolina are also going to be very important. States that were within a point, basically, in 2020 are going to be high priority to watch. States like Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin. Those states in particular, razor-thin margins in 2020, so we have to see how they hold up in this coming election.
And have you noticed, or can you tell us a little bit about Proposition 1 and what it means for New York?
So Prop 1 is it hopes to expand our civil rights protections from the basic kind of race, gender, to race, ethnicity, age, disability, pregnancy outcomes, things like that.
And do you guys think that social media has played any sort of part into this year's election?
I think yes, definitely. We've seen in the past few elections kind of the basic Facebook, Twitter growing, but this election it's been a lot of TikTok, following trends that younger people are interested in, and also podcasts have been a really big thing that we've weirdly switched to. Yeah.
And obviously social media is big with young voters, but is there anything else that you think, any trends or shifts in the political climate do you think have been caused by the young voters?
I think definitely something to notice is that we had a couple years where rallies and big events like that weren't as productive because of COVID. But now that we're kind of out of COVID, we've been seeing that a lot of these rallies are very big, especially in these swing states that have large college populations. Cities in North Carolina have large college student populations coming out to these rallies, or just massive lines on campus that are just ready, or they're just ready to vote.
And what advice would you guys have for students that are looking to get more involved in politics?
So, Vote Oswego actually has a spring internship for the 2025 semester, and so we would highly recommend that if you are interested, I believe the sign-ups, the deadline is November 11th, so if you're interested, I believe you can contact Allison Rank.
You can apply on Handshake.
Also apply on Handshake, yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. And we have one last question for you guys before we send it over to David for another presidential election update. But I'll ask every single one of you, I'll have you go through, but why did you vote?
I mean, generally, as Vote Oswego staffers, we all vote to make sure everybody's voices can be heard and they all have a chance to step out and speak out about whatever issue they find important. So along those lines, it's pretty solid between all three of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just very important. Vote Oswego, like we said, nonpartisan group. We don't care what your political beliefs are. We just want every student who has a voice to speak up.
We just want to thank you guys for coming in. We appreciate you guys coming in and taking our questions and giving us some very good answers for the people at home who are looking for some good advice. But now as states like New York approach their polling closing time, there have been a lot of movement in the Electoral College front.
Let's turn it over to our presidential election analyst, David Rienzo. David, how are things looking as the polls get closer to closing in New York?
Right now, the fight is still very close. Kamala Harris has gained a few points in Illinois, as well as New Jersey being declared for Kamala, but Arkansas has also been declared for Donald Trump. So right now, it is 101 to Donald Trump and 71 electoral votes to Kamala Harris. And this is expected to be a very tight race that is really going to come down to the wire. We have a few states that still have a while to report. Maine is soon to be reported, and New York is not to be announced for another 8 minutes at 9 o'clock. And that's when a lot of states are also going to report. Louisiana, New York, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota, Wyoming, Colorado, and New Mexico. Those will all release their results at 9 o'clock, and some more states are going to release theirs at 10 and 11 o'clock. So most likely, we will not know the results of this election until really late at night or possibly for another day. If you remember 2020, these results weren't ready for at least a few days after Election Day. I'll have more information in my next block about New York State and other new announces after I come back. Back to you guys.
Thanks, David. Coming up as the polls close here in New York, we'll check back in with our live reporter Reilly Jones to see what's happening on campus as students watch the results unfold.
Plus, what to watch for as votes start to tally for the local races, right after the break.
Say, President Stanley, whenever there's bad weather, who would you turn to?
I'd turn to Storm Team 10.
No, but you've got to say it like this. Storm Team 10. Say it with me. Storm Team 10.
welcome back to WTOP-10's election coverage, keeping you up to date on election results in real time.
It's getting closer to 9 and the polls are about to close.
Now here's a recap of the races we'll be keeping an eye on tonight. 4 major elections are affecting us here in Oswego County. There are 2 races for seats in the House. The New York 24th Congressional race, Tenney and Wagenhauser, and the New York 22nd Congressional race, Williams and Mannion.
Also the 50th New York Senate race, Parro and Ryan, and the United States presidential race, Trump and Harris.
The Vote Oswego election night party is wrapping up in MCC right now.
We turn to WTOP-10 reporter Reilly Jones, who is at the Vote Oswego election night party here on campus.
Reilly, how are the students feeling wrapping up tonight?
Thank you guys back in the studio. I'm standing here with Jasmine Storer, who actually helped organize this event and not helped, actually did organize this. Could you talk a little bit about what inspired you to put this all together?
Dr. Rank was mainly my inspiration. I work with ESSE, and she kind of just gave me this opportunity, and I really took that and ran with it.
Sure. Why do you think that spreading awareness about voting is so important to students?
I think especially on a college campus where there's a lot of first-time voters, spreading the word and educating people about civic engagement is really crucial during this time.
Absolutely. And how do we feel about the turnout? It seems like a pretty busy room in there.
Yeah, I think there was about 100 students so far. Yeah, just coming in and out. So I think, yeah, it really worked out well. Yeah.
Well, that's all we've got for now. Sorry. Just one more second. It seems we have time for one more question. Do you have any outcome expectations for the rest of the race?
I personally, I feel like it'll go really well in a lot of people's favors. So just really hoping that it goes well. Yeah.
All right. That seems to be all the time that we have. Back to you guys at the studio.
Thank you, Reilly. And it is now 3 minutes to 9 o'clock, and the polls are just minutes away from closing.
After the break, we will be bringing you live election updates. Stay tuned for more WTOP-10 election night coverage.
When you look at the number of disasters in the U.S., chances are every area will deal with some kind of emergency in the next decade. And between school, sports, and social lives, chances are you won't be with your kids when it happens. Will they know what to do? Ready.gov/kids has the educational tools and information to make the conversation easy. When the time comes, chances are they'll feel prepared, not scared. So talk with your family today.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. At the tone, please record your message.
Hey, I don't have much time. It's almost here. Listen closely, and whatever you do, don't panic.
Up to Dobson at the point. The cross-ice pass comes to Breeze. Who's going to extend the lead to 3, but the Columbus Blue Jackets, they're not going down without a fight. Puck loose. Out in front.
Welcome back to the best show on WTOP. I'm your host, Miss Meg Trivia. And I'm Donovan.
We start things off in the pool as 4 members of the Oswego women's swimming and diving team have earned all Stuniac honors. Finally, got that old music back. Welcome live inside the Aurora studio. Who is episode of Sports?
Hey guys, it's me, Isabella Gomez, filling in for Smokey Bear because he's got more to say than just...
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Like, if you're outside enjoying a barbecue, don't let a hamburger distract you from fire safety. Make sure you aren't dumping your hot coals or ashes onto the ground because that could start a wildfire. So take wildfire prevention seriously and let's save the world one day at a time. Juntos con Smokey Bear, podemos hacerlo. Go to smokeybear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hey, I don't have much time. It's almost here. Listen closely, and whatever you do, don't panic.
Welcome back to WTOP-10's election night coverage, where we have all of your local and national election news. I'm Madelynn Cummings.
And I'm Girard. And now we have our first round of numbers since the polling sites have closed.
The numbers are actually still coming in, but Kenny, how are you feeling tonight?
You know, so far so good. We've seen an interesting, number of faces tonight. We've seen a lot of people come and talk to us. We've heard from around the studio and around campus. There's just a diverse opinion this year. This election, as everybody says, is very pivotal, and it's different this year. It really does feel different than the last 2 years. I know we've seen Donald Trump on the ballot in 2016 and 2020, but I mean, here we are again in 2014. I mean, now I'm able to vote, which is nice, but it's definitely new. It's an interesting year, I will say, having these candidates come against each other, and there's just been some controversies between both.
Yeah, for sure. We're both 20, so we both got to vote in our first presidential election today, or this these past couple weeks. Yeah. And so that was really exciting for me. I mailed in my vote-in ballot, and it feels good to be a part of something and to have a say in democracy. It's really cool. It's a really unique experience, especially being a student in college, being able to learn from this experience, I think.
Yeah, and a lot of people say like their vote doesn't count, and I really feel like mine does now. I mean, again, it's another pivotal election, and I think getting, mail that ballot in, send it out, and take it away, and it was great. So I think it's really cool to finally be able to vote and have a say-so. For
sure, especially in those local elections. I got to vote on the ballot. I got to vote for someone I knew, which is the coolest thing, a town representative. So it's just so cool to know where my vote's going,
Definitely.
It's the coolest experience. But we are going to send it over to our presidential election correspondent, David Rienzo, who has more on the Harris-Trump race.
David, break it down for us.
Thanks, guys. Right now, we are still a little bit stagnant right now. Not much change, but some more precincts are reporting in some very close races. You can't see here because we're only showing the declared winners, but New York is a very contested race, as well as Pennsylvania and Georgia is also very hot. These swing states is what we expected. Georgia, North Carolina, Michigan, Wisconsin, as well as Nevada and Arizona. We expect these to be very tight. These will probably be the toss-up races that are going to decide this race, because we can tell that these ones are going to be red. These states up in the west, as well as these ones out by the down south in the deep south and on the Atlantic coast. But New York is going to be one of these blue states, so we can expect these to be regularly blue, so we're pretty safe. Illinois has already been called blue, as well as a lot of these states out in the northeast. It's these swing states that we really need to keep an eye out, and this is what I'll be updating you on regularly over the course of the night. Pennsylvania, Michigan, those 7 states that I mentioned before, these are going to be the battleground states, the toss-up states that you've really been hearing a lot about, that they're campaigning a lot in Michigan, Pennsylvania, going into Las Vegas. So we will keep you updated when these states get decided. This is how we'll know how the change of the game is going. I'll send it back to you guys in the desk, and I'll have more next time you come to me.
Thank you, David.
Over in town, Claudia Tenney is about to take the podium and speak. We are going to first go to a break, and afterwards we'll hear what she has to say.
Say, President Stanley, whenever there's bad weather, who would you turn to?
I'd turn to Storm Team 10.
No,
right
but you've
here.
got to say it like this. Storm Team 10. Say it with me. Storm Team 10.
Roll it.
Welcome back to WTOP-10's Election Night coverage. I'm Kenny Girard.
And I'm Madelynn Cummings. Right now we are going to send it back over to our presidential election correspondent, David Rienzo. David, what do you have for us?
Thanks, guys. I actually do have a couple important updates. Since you've last checked in on me, New York has officially been declared for Kamala Harris. And for Donald Trump, Nebraska, South Dakota, and North Dakota, as well as Wyoming, have all been called for Donald Trump. So that makes this race even closer. You can see we're still, Kamala Harris just shy of 100 electoral votes, Donald Trump around 120, and there's still about half of the states that still need to report. We're expecting Texas to be red. That is usually a deep red state, and California is another one of those heavy electoral college voters with nearly 40 votes. So that is usually a blue state. So as soon as those report in, as soon as those precincts are reported, then we'll know that this race is going to be much tighter, just as tight as we are expecting it to be. All the national polls have been in a dead heat for months, really, ever since Joe Biden dropped out. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump have been in an extremely tight race, one of the tightest races we've seen in modern election history. We are expecting a couple more states to come in any moment. We've got a couple close races on the Atlantic coast. North Carolina is a swing state. Right now it's leaning red, as well as Georgia, but Michigan and Pennsylvania are both leaning blue at the moment. So all these 4 states could go either way at any moment. We'll also update you more on New Hampshire and Maine. Maine is interesting, I do want to note, because Maine actually splits up their electoral college votes. So 2 will go to the winner, and then because it has 2 different districts, 2 will go to the winner of the majority, and then another for the less popular candidate. So I will be back with more information on the 2020 election as well as the 2016 to see how they compare to the 2024 election. As soon as we get back to me. Back to you guys.
Thanks, David. Lots of good stuff. We are going to hold on Claudia Tenney. She is still waiting to take the stand. As of right now, we are going to go to break.
Yeah, and when we come back, you'll be able to see Claudia Tenney and giving her speech. But for now, stick around WTOP-10 to watch our election night coverage.
When you look at the number of disasters in the U.S., chances are every area will deal with some kind of emergency in the next decade. And between school, sports, and social lives, chances are you won't be with your kids when it happens. Will they know what to do? Ready.gov/kids has the educational tools and information to make the conversation easy. When the time comes, chances are they'll feel prepared, not scared. So talk with your family today.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. At the tone, please record your message.
Hey, I don't have much time. It's almost here. Listen closely, and whatever you do, don't panic.
Up to Dobson at the point. The cross-ice pass comes to Breeze, who's going to extend the lead to 3, but the Columbus Blue Jackets, they're not going down without a fight. Puck moves out in front of net.
Welcome back to the best show on WTOP. I'm your host, Miss Meg Trivia, and I'm Donovan.
We start things off in the pool as 4 members of the Oswego women's swimming and diving team have earned all SUNYAC honors. Finally, got that old music back. Welcome live inside the Aurora studio for the newest episode of Sports.
Welcome back to WTOP-10's 2024 live election coverage.
And as polls are now closed in New York and the ballots are being counted, we are getting an update of results from the 24th and 22nd Congressional District.
Right now, looking at the 24th Congressional District, Democrat David Wagenhauser is polling with around 45% right now, while Republican candidate Claudia Tenney, the incumbent, is at 55%.
No large surprise for the county, but we take a look now at the 22nd Congressional District. Brandon Williams currently has a narrow margin of a victory right now at 51.6%, while John Mannion is falling behind at 48%.
Two really close races.
Yeah, and some would be surprised to see maybe they're a little closer than they thought, but so far the people that you thought would be in the lead are currently in the lead in these counties, but it can go either way.
Yeah, and Claudia Tenney right now is about to take the podium. What do you think she's going to say? What do you think she's going to talk about right after the polls close?
Well, I think she might have hoped that it was more of a concise victory speech, and I don't think she's going to get that because the numbers are still too narrow to call. As they say in politics, too close to call. So I think it's going to be more of a hype-up speech. We have the lead, but we want to continue to maintain the lead, and we'll see where she goes from there.
I agree. I think this is definitely probably really nerve-wracking for her in the room. I can only imagine what the energy feels like right now.
I would bet. Like I said, it's definitely closer than she thought, but she still has a narrow margin in the lead.
Yeah, 45% to 45%. That's crazy. It's only a 10% difference.
Which in politics could be a bit larger than you would expect, but still close.
Yeah, with her being the incumbent, it was anticipated that she would take a really strong early lead very early on. So.
Yeah, absolutely. You would think she'd take that early lead, and she didn't. And now we'll have to see what she says in her speech. We can't speak for her. We'll have to see what she says.
For sure. And over in the Williams-Mannion, the Mannion election, that's definitely a little closer. What it's looking at, like a almost 3-4% lead right now, which is definitely closer than the Tenney Wagenhauser race.
Yeah, you're saying almost 7% closer. And like in politics, anything below 5%, I like to say is close. Anything below 1 is extremely too close to call. Yes. And I think that both of these ballots being counted just seem to be very, very close.
And now Claudia Tenney is ready. She's about to take the stage for her speech, and we are going to send it over to Clarissa Karki, her camera, and let's see what Claudia Tenney has to say.
Let's see it.
All right, so it looks like we are still waiting on Miss Claudia Tenney, so we will send it to break right now, and when we're back, hopefully she'll have something.
Say, President Stanley, whenever there's bad weather, who would you turn to?
I'd turn to Storm Team 10.
No,
right
but you've
here.
got to say it like this. Storm Team 10. Say it with me. Storm Team 10.
Roll it.
When you look at the number of disasters in the U.S., chances are every area will deal with some kind of emergency in the next decade. And between school, sports, and social lives, chances are you won't be with your kids when it happens. Will they know what to do? Ready.gov/kids has the educational tools and information to make the conversation easy. When the time comes, chances are they'll feel prepared, not scared. So talk with your family today.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. At the tone, please record your message.
Hey, I don't have much time. It's almost here. Listen closely, and whatever you do, don't panic.
Up to Dobson at the point. The cross-ice pass comes to Breeze. Who's going to extend the lead to 3, but the Columbus Blue Jackets, they're not going down without a fight. Puck loose. Out in front of net.
Welcome back to the best show on WTOP. I'm your host, Miss Meg Trivia, and I'm Donovan.
We start things off in the pool as 4 members of the Oswego women's swimming and diving team have earned all SUNY honors. Finally, we got that old music back. Welcome live inside the Aurora studio for the newest episode of Sports.
Welcome back.
This is WTOP-10's 2024 live election coverage. After the defeat in the midterm election, Democrats are making a push to win back key House seats in New York. 2 years ago, Republicans flipped 4 Democratic House seats outside New York, paving their way to winning a narrow House majority. Democrats are now outspending Republicans in half a dozen key races in the New York state.
Democrats have also embraced tougher stances on issues such as immigration and crime that are popular among conservative voters, while still advocating for abortion rights. One of the key races is now unfolding in the 22nd District, where Democrat John Mannion is challenging the incumbent Republican representative Brandon Williams in Syracuse.
Earlier this year, New York's Governor Kathy Hochul signed a new congressional map that gives Democrats a slight boost in some battleground districts during the current election cycle. Although their lines did not appear to be as aggressive partisan gerrymandering as some of the Democrats hoped, the redistricting could help Democrats in the general election.
Gerrymandering is a practice of drawing districts to favor a political party and is criticized for skewing election results. Lines for the 24th District has, however, remained unchanged. More than 7,000 people in New York have cast their ballots in early voting stage. Opening weekend saw over 300,000 ballots, according to the State Board of Election members. That is more votes than the first weekend of early voting in the last election in 2020. Early voting ended on Sunday, November 3rd.
Over 75 million people participated in early voting by mail and in-person voting. Some states provided details about the early votes cast, including their partisan divides, age, and methods of voting. Vice President Harris's campaign pushed Democratic voters to utilize early voting aggressively to increase votes ahead of Election Day. Former President Trump's campaign has been critical for early voting. His campaign and the Republican Party have been pushing voters to vote early.
As hundreds of thousands finish placing their votes, many have been wondering exactly how much their vote matters. The Electoral College often becomes a hot topic during elections, and lots of voters get to asking, what exactly is the Electoral College and how does it work?
Gabrielle Agatella got to work finding out exactly what the Electoral College is and how your vote still matters.
Earlier, I spoke with students here on SUNY Oswego's campus and asked them if they knew what the Electoral College was. The answers varied.
No.
Actually, I do not.
I'd like to think I do. Yes, I do.
Kind of. If I had to explain it, I wouldn't do a very good job.
No, I don't.
I do not. No, I don't.
One thing is for sure. The Electoral College and its purpose remains unclear to many students on campus, but they're not alone. According to a recent Gallup poll, a majority of American voters are unsure of what the Electoral College is and what purpose it serves. SUNY Oswego professor of politics Lisa Glidden explained where the Electoral College got its start.
The Electoral College reflects the ideas at the time when the United States Constitution was written, where there was a lot of fear of the sort of tyranny of the passions of the majority. And so the electoral system was set up so that everyone would go out and vote, but then delegates would represent their states and sort of pass along the votes of the popular vote for the president.
Glidden understands why so many individuals are confused by the Electoral College.
I think a lot of people are unclear about who the delegates to the Electoral College even are and how they get chosen. And it's a function of our democracy that is kind of inherently anti-democratic. It definitely is more like Republican in the sense of that we are a republic.
Despite the general confusion and dislike of the Electoral College by American voters, according to the Pew Research Center, implementing a new system would be difficult, as that would require amending the Constitution, which brings along a lengthy process with it. Glidden wanted me to remind voters it's still important for them to get out to the polls, as what they write on their ballots determines what the Electoral College votes. Gabrielle Legatella, WTOP-10.
Only 4 times in United States history has the popular vote lost to the Electoral College. The most recent being in 2016 when Hillary Clinton secured the popular vote, but Trump won the Electoral College and became president. It will be interesting to see how this election turns out with the candidates polling close to each other, similar to the 2016 election. Now, we are still waiting on Miss Claudia Tenney to take the podium, but we will throw it to break, and then afterwards we'll be back with WTOP's election night coverage.
When you look at the number of disasters in the U.S., chances are every area will deal with some kind of emergency in the next decade. And between school, sports, and social lives, chances are you won't be with your kids when it happens. Will they know what to do? Ready.gov/kids has the educational tools and information to make the conversation easy. When the time comes, chances are they'll feel prepared, not scared. So talk with your family today.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. At the tone, please record your message.
Hey, I don't have much time. It's almost here. Listen closely, and whatever you do, don't panic.
Up to Dobson at the point. The cross-ice pass comes to Rienzo, who's going to extend the lead to 3, but the Columbus Blue Jackets, they're not going down without a fight. Puck loose, out in front of net.
Welcome back to the best show on WTOP. I'm your host, Miss Meg Trivia, and I'm Donovan.
We start things off in the pool as 4 members of the Oswego women's swimming and diving team have earned all SUNYAC honors. Finally, got that old music back. Welcome live inside the Aurora studio for the newest episode of Sports.
Welcome back to WTOP-10's election night coverage. I'm Girard.
And I'm Madelynn Cummings. Kenny, I have a quick question for you.
Oh.
Earlier we were talking about how we voted in our first presidential election, and I was just wondering why you vote. Why is it important to you?
It comes with things that need to be changed and things that don't need to be changed. I feel like my voice matters too. It doesn't matter where you go on the political spectrum. I think everybody has a vote, and I think everybody's voice matters. And the great thing about the United States of America is we all do get a say-so. It's a beautiful thing that we all get to choose. We get to pick, and we don't just get someone sworn into office without having a say-so. So I think it's a beautiful thing that we have a democracy here. I just think we need to continue doing that. I think keeping the American, not the American dream, but the American philosophy and just democracy in itself, you got to keep that alive.
Perfect. Well, we are going to toss it over to a package by our reporter, Lucas Marcus Silva. Election day is coming, and with that, the country starts to prepare in all areas.
As Lucas Marquez reports, the Lakers volleyball team is no different.
Volleyball and elections, 2 distinct things that have something in common: competition. The Lakers, for the first time in years, will have a game on election day. The volleyball team will hit the road to face RIT in Rochester. Oswego now went to a Lakers training day to see how the preparation works. And the women's volleyball team do their practice here at the McFeeley Gymnasium. Head coach John Seidman keeps a friendly and competitive environment and talks about many topics, including the election.
In a way, a good distraction, something that you can have a conversation about with them, and kind of educate them as how the system works, how the process works, and what their expectations if they're registered to vote here versus at their home.
Many players on the team are young and have never voted before. Team members say it's led to plenty of conversations, but they are not losing track of one thing: they are also in a competition.
And have this on the back of their mind, plus knowing we got 2 conference games, coming up, and 4 conference games coming up before that game on the 5th, and trying to get through all that, and then figure out, okay, who do I want to vote for? Who's the best person for me moving forward?
The Lakers are in very good form recently. While we don't know if this will be the best season for the Lakers, we know they are preparing for it. Lucas Marquez Silva.
The Lakers took on RIT this evening at 6 p.m. And now let's send it over to our presidential election correspondent, David Rienzo.
David, what do you got for us?
Thanks, guys. I got a couple more states just reporting. Texas, Louisiana, and Ohio have all been declared for Donald Trump, which puts him at 177 electoral votes to Kamala Harris's 99 votes. However, Kamala Harris does have 74% of the overall votes, and Donald Trump has 52%. So this is still an incredibly tight race. I'd like to take you to Georgia now, where we've got 74% of the precincts reporting, and it is currently leading for Donald Trump. And then out in North Carolina, we have 52% of precincts reporting, which is also leading to Donald Trump. And in Wisconsin, only 7% of the total polls have been reported, and it is currently leading blue, as well as Michigan and Pennsylvania are both leaning towards Kamala Harris. Now, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, as well as Georgia, all went to Joe Biden last year. North Carolina, though, was a red state in the 2020 election, as well as 2016. So this one, while not completely red, this is still all a toss-up. These are all battleground states, so this is still anybody's race. It is still an incredibly tight race. I know right now we have a large deficit between the Electoral College votes, but don't get too confident as a Trump voter, and don't get too down and out as a Kamala voter, because this race is still incredibly tight, and it could be anybody's election. I'll have more information, and as well as some more comparisons between the 2020 and 2016 compared to this year's election. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks, David. As of right now, we are still waiting for Claudia Tenney to take the podium.
But hopefully after the break, she'll be on the podium ready to speak to us. Stick around on WTOP-10 for our election night coverage.
Hey guys, it's me, Isabella Gomez, filling in for Smokey Bear because he's got more to say than just...
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Like, if you're outside enjoying a barbecue, don't let a hamburger distract you from fire safety. Make sure you aren't dumping your hot coals or ashes onto the ground because that could start a wildfire. So take wildfire prevention seriously and let's save the world one day at a time. Juntos con Smokey Bear, podemos hacerlo. Go to smokeybear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hey, I don't have much time. It's almost here. Listen closely, and whatever you do, don't panic.
Welcome back to WTOP-10's Election Night coverage. I'm Kenny Girard.
And I'm Madelynn Cummings. Our Tenney team has told us that she will be speaking in 5 minutes. But until then, let's take a look at the 24th and 22nd congressional district numbers right now, where they are.
Well, let's take a look, Madelynn, at the first one. Claudia Tenney still maintains that same lead she did earlier, 55% of the vote going her way, while David Wagenhauser currently still sits at 45%, a 10% differential between the two candidates.
It's definitely a close race, closer than anticipated by many people. And I also, it's interesting that it stayed the same, too.
Yeah, and that might show some consistency, which gets you closer to being able to have the race being called. If you're sitting at the same numbers as you were earlier, I think that you're not seeing a large margin. It didn't come down to 3% or 2%, and it didn't jump up to about 20%. So I think if you're sitting at this consistent level, about a 10% difference between both candidates, you're getting close to being able to call that race.
Yeah, I think it's very telling as to what the results will be. And now let's take a look over to the 22nd 22nd District, with John Mannion, our Democratic nominee, at 52.9% and Brandon Williams at 47.1%.
Well, as I would say, in the sports world, we're looking at an upset alert. A little bit of a lead there for Mannion, now taking up at 52.9% of the vote, starting to separate a little bit. And this is why we said earlier these races are too close to be called. This one, another one, too close to be called. That race flip-flopped. We cannot call that one yet.
Yeah, no, I'm really interested to see where it goes from here.
Absolutely, and I'm sure the people of the 22nd Congressional District are watching very closely as well. I mean, we're sitting here watching and going, wow, that's, you know, it's going back and forth and back and forth. It's a very interesting race, and I'm excited to see how it pans out for the rest of the night.
Yeah, I'm on the edge of my metaphorical seat, and I can just assume that all of our viewers at home are doing the same thing. And now, David, while we're still waiting for Claudia Tenney to take this, can I call you David?
It's okay.
Kenny, Mr. Kenny Girard, Mr. Kenny. Can you talk a little bit about the presidential election and what's going on there so far?
So we're taking a quick look now at Republican former President Donald Trump at 53% of the overall vote, while Democrat and Vice President Kamala Harris currently sits at 46%. A marginal lead right now for Donald Trump, but I will say, Madelynn, in previous elections, it started like this. You saw Donald Trump come out early. He's got the red states. You got the states now. Who owns the election day is Republicans. Republicans tend to go out and vote more during election day. Now, last year, Donald Trump's party had a 16% lead on election night, while Joe Biden had a 10% lead in the early mail-in ballots. And it looks to be the same story here. A lot of these mail-in ballots, especially in places like Pennsylvania, are still being counted. So you're looking at this number going, wow, Donald Trump came out to a quick lead in early, not as close as people are expecting. But for people at home, do not panic. We are still waiting to see how the mail-in ballots come in, as well as seeing where these two come together and a little bit closer.
Excuse me, Kenny. Wow. Yeah, they refer to it as the red wave. And while I'm catching my breath, I think we're going to send it to a break. And we will be right back, and hopefully take a drink of water and I'll be a little better by then.
Say, President Stanley, whenever there's bad weather, who would you turn to?
I'd turn to Storm Team 10.
No, but you've got to say it like this. Storm Team 10. Say it with me. Storm Team 10. Roll it.
For election coverage. Now let's hear it from Miss Claudia Tenney as she speaks at her event tonight.
One thing that has been the most incredible part of my life today is that I live in Oswego County and I have never been happier. This is amazing. It's amazing to be here in Oswego. I started representing Oswego and working in Oswego in 2003, so it's been a long time. You guys have been tremendous to me. You've always treated me like I'm at home, even when I didn't live in Oswego. I work for the former Assemblyman Dave Townsend, who's here tonight also. There he is, right there. He represented Oswego County, but my father also represented Oswego County for 35 years as a Supreme Court Justice in the 5th Judicial District. So It's, you know, I've been coming here my whole life. Actually, my best friend from high school is from the city of Oswego, believe it or not. And her cousin's father was the mayor. Won't get in, he was a Democrat, so I'm not going to get into the details. But, you know, see, we can be best friends, right? But I did, you know, you guys have been tremendous. The Republican committee, the Conservative Party has been amazing, always been so supportive. I'm really, actually really excited today to say some of my family members are here. They made the journey up here. I think it looked like it was kind of it was going to be a little bit more of less of a competitive race because of the way the redistricting worked out. But we still worked hard. We still work hard every day. I run, every year is an election year. Every day is an election day. We run really hard because what we're trying to do is provide aggressive advocacy for everyone in this community and everyone across this huge district. And it's such an honor and a privilege to represent this beautiful part of New York, all the way from Alexandria Bay to the Niagara River, down to Steuben, Schuyler counties, all the Finger Lakes. Who could ask for a more beautiful part of the earth? And we have it, and we live here, and I'm as grateful as all of you are to be part of this wonderful place. But what's even better than the beauty of this region are the people that live here, and you guys make it such an honor to serve. And I'm grateful to you, and I want to just first say thank you to everyone. I also have my family members here, so first and foremost, I know I can't really, he rarely comes in, but he surprised me today, actually. I was in my room, down in my apartment, or my, what is it, townhouse, they always let me say that. I was on Oneida Lake, and I went up into my room, and all of a sudden somebody came in my room and was like, oh my God. And my son, who's Trey Cleary, is right here. I did not know, it was a surprise, but thank you to Trey for coming out. We really appreciate it. He usually tries to get here on election night. He's been busy serving our nation, and he's a Marine and Naval Academy graduate. We have some tremendous Academy students out there right now coming from Oswego County, so I don't know if their parents are here, but some of them are actually involved in Oswego politics. Also wanted to just say thank you also to my brother. Where is he hiding? I don't know. There he is. Oh, they're over here. My brother Bob is here. Bob is, since I can't actually run our family business, Bob's been running our business for, I don't know, many years, 40 or more or something. It's been a long time. And really happy
20.
to
20.
40. It's 40.
You can't say 40.
You can't. So Bob's usually tries to show up at election night, and I'm really grateful to have him here. We're still struggling to survive in New York, and that's one of the reasons I'm still running for Congress, to make sure that all of our small businesses and everybody who serves here and works so hard every day can continue to run your business and stay here in New York and stop the madness, stop the out-migration that we've seen over the past 10 years in New York, which is really troubling. And really, the foundation of our communities are our small business community, and they're the ones that actually provide the jobs, provide our great quality of life, help our charitable organizations, everyone, and it's really just so important that we keep them going. And I'm just grateful to Bob and my family members and everyone who's been here and been supportive and running our businesses. All of you, everything you do, you do to support your communities. You know, whether it's a small, a baseball team, a softball team, whatever. It's really important what you do, and that you give of your time and your effort to keep our community strong. And then also a really special guest here, my cousin Debbie, who actually grew up in the Whitesboro area. She's here, right here with her friend Karen. So Debbie is, she's like a sibling to me, and she's honestly, I say this, I know I'm going to embarrass her tonight because she's never been to an election party for me, but she's always on the phone texting and encouraging. And one thing I can tell you about my cousin Debbie is that if anyone's going to go to heaven, it's going to be Debbie. She's the nicest person in the world. She's an amazing person. And so just, really grateful that you guys could be here to support, and all of you. It's wonderful. My staff's all here. People who work in our official office, work in our campaign office. And I'm just really grateful to have just a tremendous group of people that work, and they care every day. They believe in the mission of serving and providing aggressive advocacy that we do on behalf of everyone in New York 24. So I'm grateful to them. I also want to just say for a moment, thank you to my opponent. We didn't see a whole lot of each other on the campaign trail, but it's hard to run for office, as any of you sort of know. So I appreciate him putting his name out there and stepping up to run for office. So congratulations to him for being a candidate in a national office. It's not easy. The media didn't focus a lot on our race like they usually do. See, they cut my mic off. Somebody must have done that. Somebody must have planned that. I don't know if I need it. I don't know. This is probably the real mic, right? The Channel 7 mic. But you know, again, I just want to everyone here. I'm so pleased to see all of the members of the Oswego County Committee, people that are just supporters of Oswego County, or elected officials, the people who make the county run. I'm not going to mention names, but I do want to just say thank you to all of you for one of the missions I had after my tough election in 2020. And some of the people in media may know, we were winning by 28,422 votes on election night in 2020. And we ended up, after 100 days in court in Oswego, by the way, Oswego County, we ended up only winning by 109. And that's when I started the Election Integrity Caucus. After all the irregularities that we saw in the pandemic election, problems all across our country that really made us concerned about election integrity, we founded this caucus. We've been committed to it. We have almost 80 members on the House side that serve and help us. And I really just want to see us be able to make sure that we recognize how important it is that we take our government back and we the people actually are self-governing again. That was the vision of our founders. It was a tough time that Abraham Lincoln went through when President Lincoln said, can we be self-governing? Can we do this? And that's why I was committed to this cause, to make sure that we provide everybody with the information you need to make good decisions about voting, that we the people are we the citizens. We are the people who are voting. And we decided to name this mission this year, and our campaign this year is the Make Voting Great Again mission. And I see some of you holding up the signs. We really appreciate it. It's all about voting. It should be such a joy. It should be so important. I got to tell you, I know Bob and I grew up in somewhat of a political family. My father was a judge, but he was also a chairman in a Republican committee, and as was our grandfather. But my grandmother started harassing me when I was 16 years old. Have you voted? Have you voted? Have you voted? And it was so important to them because we have people in our country who have lost life and limb, who sacrificed being with their loved ones to serve our nation so we get the right to vote in a free, fair, and private election. That is what is so important about preserving what we call our democracy, our constitutional republic, the beliefs of our founders. And that's why we just want to see every citizen vote. One citizen, one vote. It's so important. But I just want to say thank you to all of you. I'm just so grateful. I love representing this community. I love being a resident of Oswego County. And I just love all of you for what you've done for me, what you've welcomed me with open arms. All of you have terrific representatives, by the way, all across, up and down, whether it's your senator, who's actually serving right now, also hopefully a new senator from this part of Oswego, a terrific sheriff, your terrific county manager, your county legislators. Everybody does such an amazing job. And I just want to say thank you to all of you. I'm just honored and look forward to hopefully having good results tonight. I know it's looking a little close out there, but it's early. And hopefully we'll have big wins across the board tonight. We can win the presidency, take back the Senate, which it looks like we're projected to do, and then keep the House of Representatives so we can start working on our economy, sealing our border, making sure we're safe again, and bringing the costs down and actually growing upstate New York, bringing people back and jobs back, because that's what we're going to have to do in order to really bring prosperity back to our communities. And I just want to say again, I'm just grateful. Congratulations to all of you for all the hard work you've done. Hopefully tonight will be a really winning night, not just my race, but everyone across and up and down the board. Thank you so much.
So have some drinks, have some food, as results.
So that's all for Claudia Tenney today, and even though the results haven't been called, she seems pretty optimistic.
I was going to say, it doesn't tell, or at least to our information team, the race has not been called yet, but that sounded like a victory speech.
Yeah, but you know what has been called? Proposition 1 has been passed in New York State. Kenny, what do you think?
Well, it's a big update for New York voters. The proposition that was on all the ballots on the very back for every New Yorker has officially passed. So look at it on both sides. To me, this felt like a bipartisan vote, and that's just my opinion. But I think that, it's interesting to see how many people actually voted yes or no. I'm intrigued to see what the numbers really look like on that, but
for sure.
I think we'll look forward to that later.
I think anything that passes this early in the night must be bipartisan. It must have, again, we will have updates on the numbers later in the night, but must have been the overwhelming majority.
Absolutely. And New York is usually a quick-to-call state, especially in the presidential race, and even when the governors are being elected, it is a quick-to-call state. But I think if it's that quick to be called and it's not the president, I think it was a big number.
For sure. And now let's take a look at poll workers. They're getting younger and younger across the country.
Absolutely. And elder election workers in Mayville, New York are trying to help recruit the next generations to work the polls. The State Board of Election leaders don't keep the demographic information of each poll worker, but county boards know they need more young volunteers. The next generation coming up behind them has not been inclined to come out and help on Election Day. Many election commissioners say the lack of involvement could be because the days are labor intensive and long. Mayville poll workers are going to local schools to invite students to shadow them in hopes of piquing their interest.
Young voters played a decisive role in the 2020 presidential election and will continue to make waves in the current election. The Berkeley Institute for Young Americans had a study that analyzed the political values and behaviors of voters ages 18 to 43. The study found that contrary to many stereotypes, young people aren't involved in voting. They do vote, but they lack the confidence in the American government to make the changes that are needed. Political candidates understand the growing effect of young voters and are focusing their interests while campaigning.
With the upcoming election just around the corner, many international students are anxiously watching as the outcome could drastically affect their futures.
Ezekiel Santos has more.
For thousands of international students across the United States, this election could have a profound impact on their ability to stay in the country, pursue their education, or even work after graduation.
If the election turns out to be Trump winning, that would definitely affect my decisions for like next year. I am not staying here after graduation if Trump wins, which is not a good thing because that's not just my decision. There's going to be a lot of people's decision. And however much people think like it's okay for like immigrants to not be here or like non-Americans to not be here, it definitely affects everything here. I don't know how beneficial that is going to be for the US itself.
According to Statista, international students make up 5.6% of all university students in the United States. But immigration policies, visa regulations, and post-graduation work opportunities for these students can fluctuate depending on who holds office. A major topic of concern for many is the potential changes to the H-1B visa program, which allows skilled international graduates to work in the U.S. after completing their studies.
I know a few people who took out loans before they came here, and I'm sure if they change the immigration laws about the student visa or work visas, they will get in trouble, and I'm really scared for them.
With the stakes so high, international students say they're following this election closely. Although they can't vote, they are hopeful that policies remain in place to help them achieve their goals and continue contributing to the U.S. Eddie Angel Santos.
Thank you, Eddie Angel. It was so much at stake for international students. The outcome of this election could not shape only their futures, but also the future of higher education across the country.
Now back to the Tenney party. Our reporter Clarissa Karki has an interview set up with Oswego Mayor Rob Corradino. Clarissa, what do you have?
Thank you. We are now joined by Oswego City Mayor Rob Corradino. Sir, thank you for joining us.
Yes.
We were just in there after Representative Tenney gave us her remarks. What do you think? What do you think her chances are when it comes to winning the congressional race for District 24?
Well, I think they're very good. I mean, she has such a great track record. In the past few years, she's really done a great job for our area, for the 24th Congressional District. So I think it's very good chance.
And what can another term with Congresswoman Tenney look like for District 24, specifically Oswego?
Well, I've had the chance to work with her now for a while, and I know that she's committed to do what's right for our area. And now that she's looks like she's approaching victory, I'm looking forward to working with her for at least another 2 more years. And again, she knows our issues, she knows our problems, and she knows how to solve them. So I'm very confident that the next couple of years will be great for our community.
And as far as the reports that we're getting indicates that she is currently in the lead for the race right now in the House. What messages on her behalf do you think resonated the most with the voters right now, the fact that she's in the lead?
Well, the race was a contested race, obviously, and there were a lot of issues that were going back and forth. But, she wants to make sure that the border is secure. She wants to make sure that the people of our community, of our country, are living a good life and have fair prices. So, I mean, it goes across the board. But I think that overall, she really cares about our community, our country, and she really feels that it's a responsibility on her part to do the best she can, and I'm very confident she'll do a great job.
And as you mentioned, like some of these issues that are kind of playing out hugely on the national level, such as immigration, cost of living, all of these things have kind of been on the voters' mind when it comes to local elections too. What are some of these particular issues from the presidential race that you are seeing have probably had a ripple effect when it comes to how people are deciding to vote in the district?
Well, obviously, I can only speak to Oswego County and the city of Oswego. I can't really speak at the national level, but I think that by and large, people in our area are really concerned about the border. They're concerned about immigration. They're concerned about prices of goods and services. So, I mean, we've seen some inflation numbers in the last few years that were harmful for everybody. So really, it goes across the board that those are the topics I think the people are really resonating for.
All right, Mayor Corradino, thank you so much for joining us. Back to you, Madelynn and Kenny at the desk.
Thanks, Clarissa.
And coming up after the break, we have the latest presidential update on the presidential election.
Hey guys, it's me, Isabella Gomez, filling in for Smokey Bear because he's got more to say than just...
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Like, if you're outside enjoying a barbecue, don't let a hamburger distract you from fire safety. Make sure you aren't dumping your hot coals or ashes onto the ground because that could start a wildfire. So take wildfire prevention seriously and let's save the world one day at a time. Juntos con Smokey Bear, podemos hacerlo. Go to smokeybear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hey, I don't have much time. It's almost here. Listen closely, and whatever you do, don't panic.
When you look at the number of disasters in the U.S., chances are every area will deal with some kind of emergency in the next decade. And between school, sports, and social lives, chances are you won't be with your kids when it happens. Will they know what to do? Ready.gov/kids has the educational tools and information to make the conversation easy. When the time comes, chances are they'll feel prepared, not scared. So talk with your family today.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. At the tone, please record your message.
Hey, I don't have much time. It's almost here. Listen closely, and whatever you do, don't panic.
Up to Dobson at the point. The cross-ice pass comes to Parise, who's going to extend the lead to 3, but the Columbus Blue Jackets, they're not going down without a fight. Puck loose, out in front of net.
Welcome back to the best show on WTOP. I'm your host, Miss Meg Trivia, and I'm Donna.
We start things off in the pool as 4 members of the Oswego women's swimming and diving team have earned all SUNYAC honors. Oh, finally got that old music back. Welcome live inside the Aurora studio for the newest episode of Sports.
Welcome back to WTOP-10's Election Night coverage. I'm Kenny Girard.
And I'm Madelynn Cummings. More results are rolling in thanks to AP News. And let's send it over to our political analysis, David Rienzo. David?
Thanks, guys. We do have one new state reporting. Missouri has been called for Donald Trump, putting him now at 188 electoral votes to Kamala Harris's 99%. The percentages of the majority vote, popular vote as it's called, is still 74 to 52%, leaning towards Donald Trump. But once again, this is an incredibly tight race. I'd like to take you to Wisconsin right now. Wisconsin is 34% leaning toward 34% of the votes have been cast already, have been counted, and right now it is leaning towards Donald Trump by an incredibly thin margin. It is 49 to 49% leaning towards Donald Trump. By, again, just an incredibly sharp margin. Michigan and Pennsylvania are leaning towards Donald Trump, leaning towards Kamala, I apologize, with 15% reported in Michigan and 39% in Pennsylvania. Georgia and North Carolina are leaning towards Donald Trump, and a majority of their votes have been cast already. We have 80% of the precincts reporting and 65% of the precincts reporting in North Carolina. Another very close rate is out in New Mexico. New Mexico is leaning towards Trump at the moment, and it is 50% Donald Trump, 48% Kamala Harris. So these are incredibly tight races. These could be called any moment, and they could be going either way. This is really a coin flip depending on who's going to – it's an incredibly tight race is really all I can say. It's just like back in 2020 when it was another extremely tight race. I'll have more after you come back to me. But first, back to you guys at the desk.
Thank you so much, David.
Our reporter Reilly Jones has another interview with SUNY Oswego professor Josh Pletchner, analyzing the election through an academic lens. Reilly?
All right, thank you guys. So we're joined in the WTOP studio with Dr. Josh Pletchner of the Oswego Political Science Department. How's it going today?
So far, so good. I'm really happy to be here.
We're happy to have you. So our first question, how long have you been studying politics?
So I've been studying politics since my undergraduate days, so it's about 20 years at this point where I've been thinking a lot about American politics and government specifically. Yeah.
Excellent. So how long have you been a professor, either at Oswego or did you have any professor jobs before this?
I have had professor jobs before this one. I've been teaching at the university level for a little bit more than a decade. So even going back to when I was a graduate student and still training in this field, teaching large sections of American politics and government courses, those are the kinds of things that I teach regularly and pretty much every semester here at Oswego.
All right, so it's clear to see you have a decent amount of experience with this sort of stuff. So so throughout all those years that you've been studying politics and especially surveying students and how they interact with the politics that are around them, are there any trends that you've noticed, especially this year, as far as like how students choose to engage or how they decide to vote?
Sure. I think one thing of this election cycle that I've found especially interesting is the level of technicality of questions that students are bringing into the classroom. I think over the last 6 years, we as a country have been introduced to features of our Constitution and legal processes that are kind of unusual and just frankly don't happen that often in our history. So, I mean, even things like reflecting on the multiple impeachment process of the former President Trump, thinking about his role as a candidate coming into this election cycle. These are questions that are increasingly technical, that require close specificity when I'm describing them in the classroom or talking about the consequences of them with students.
For sure. It's definitely great to hear that students are getting a little more insightful and wanting to learn more about all the different details of really everything that's been going on. Throughout the broadcast, we've discussed Prop 1, and it's definitely a hot-button issue on this election. Yeah. So, are there any reactions among students or any opinions that you've heard? How is it being received on campus?
So I would say broadly, in my judgment, from the front of the classroom and talking with students in the hallways and in office hours and things like that, there's pretty wide support for Prop 1 on campus. The kinds of questions that students are having about it are largely connected to questions of reproductive rights and freedoms that this proposition in part is designed to enshrine in the state constitution. And so there's a lot of interest on those kinds of elements of Prop 1. But of course, Prop 1 is a much bigger change to our Constitution than just focusing on reproductive rights and abortion access in New York State. So the way that students are engaging with it is perhaps focused on those narrow areas, but then that gives us a chance to talk about the much broader ways that this is an important constitutional change that expands quite radically the kinds of protections that the Constitution offers.
Absolutely. So are there any other topics that you said that you've discussed? You've said you've discussed with students like during office hours or during the class time. Are there any other students that have, or any topics that have really gotten attention from the students and have really, yeah.
Sure, so I think that students are obviously focused on the presidential election. And when we think about the relationship between issues at the state level, like Prop 1, and how that can drive or change turnout and focus attention on other national offices, the presidential election is always going to be one of the big concerns in front of students' eyes. Relatedly, when we're thinking about how much power the office of the president has in relation to the other branches of our national government, certainly there's a connected conversation around legislative control and who might take control of the House or the Senate. That's an important piece of any president's ability to achieve their agenda. And so it's not just a question about what will the results of the presidential election be, but how the entirety of government is going to be reshaped through the choices being made at the ballot box today.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Is there anything you'd like to add before we toss the break?
Thanks so much for focusing our attention on this stuff. I appreciate it.
Well, we're happy to have you, and it's our pleasure. We'll see you guys after the break. You're watching the WTOP-10 election night coverage.
Thanks, Reilly. Now let's take a look at the races we're watching. We'll start off with the 24th Congressional District, the race against Miss Claudia Tenney and Mr. David Wagenhauser.
And this is the gap that a lot of people were expecting to see. Claudia Tenney now at 60% of the vote, and David Wagenhauser now at 39%. This is one of those times now where you could probably say it's going to be called soon. It looks like Claudia Tenney will retain her seat.
I agree. She took a huge leap ahead. I can imagine this will be called tonight within the next hour or so.
Absolutely. I'd almost fathomed the guess before we get off air here at 10:30. I think that one may be called. If not, in the late hours of the night up to about midnight, I think that'll be called. For sure. Absolutely. And now let's head over to the 22nd Congressional District and check the numbers with that. Democrat John Mannion is at 43.8% and Republican Brandon Williams is at 56.1%. The gap there has grown exponentially as well. I think we got to take this one to Fairhaven Beach because there's a lot of flip-flopping here. We've gone back and forth between the Democratic nominee and the Republican nominee, and that's again why I say this one is again still too close to call, because if you're still going back and forth, you really don't have any solid ground to make a decision yet. And you don't want AP to mess up that call and say, yes, we're going to call it right now. You don't want to do that. That's going to be really bad if you count some more ballots and see that it did not actually flip. So again, going back and forth between these two candidates, I think that we're going to keep this one as too early to call. Probably will not be found out on our election, or on our broadcast, but I do think later into the night, maybe the wee hours of the morning, you'll know that election number.
I agree. When analyzing the elections, this was the one that I was told to keep an eye on. This is the one that we're watching most closely. It's, again, too close to call, and I think it'll be into tomorrow, even the next couple days before we know who won the seat.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like we said, this one is nationally watched. This is for a seat in seat in Congress. And with the gerrymandering accusations and all these things that have been going on, this is a very, very, very important race to watch.
I agree. And now let's head over to the federal level with our two presidential candidates, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump.
And we take a look here. The numbers remain the same. Former President Donald Trump sitting at 53% of the vote, while Democratic candidate Vice President Kamala Harris is currently sitting at 46% of the vote. As we saw with our presidential analysis man, David Rienzo, saw the states are flip-flopping. We saw that early red wave that we had expected. Now the Democratic states are starting to come in, and you have states like California, Oregon, and Washington that are yet to be counted and called in for Kamala Harris. Most absolutely, you're going to go her way.
I agree. I think the West Coast is pivotal in this election, and I think it's going to even out those numbers a lot.
Simple is where the sun shines. Up on the East Coast, it gets dark quicker. You get the answers sooner. On the West Coast, maybe it's a little sunny a little longer, but you got to wait on them to give their election results.
For sure. And for now, we are going to go to break, but when we come back, we will have more on WTOP's 2024 election night coverage.
Hey guys, it's me, Isabella Gomez, filling in for Smokey Bear because he's got more to say than just...
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Like, if you're outside enjoying a barbecue, don't let a hamburger distract you from fire safety. Make sure you aren't dumping your hot coals or ashes onto the ground because that could start a wildfire. So take wildfire prevention seriously and let's save the world one day at a time. Juntos con Smokey Bear, podemos hacerlo. Go to smokeybear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hey, I don't have much time. It's almost here. Listen closely, and whatever you do, don't panic.
Welcome back to WTOP-10's election night coverage. I'm Girard.
And I'm Madelynn Cummings.
Sorry.
Excuse me. As Oswego students cast their votes this election, the memory of the day echoes in their minds as well. With polarized parties and a highly charged political climate, some are asking, could we see a repeat of this violence? Our Abby Schomburg has more.
The 2024 election is underway, and many voters are anxiously awaiting the results as the memory of the January 6th insurrection still lingers. On January 6th, 2021, voters stormed the Capitol in an attempt to overturn the election results for the 2020 election. SUNY Oswego Jr., Skylar Kozinski, says she fears the outcome of this election could cause a repeat of history.
Already with the last presidential election, there was a lot of violence, and I feel like now that people are more passionate than they were last time, that there will be a lot more violence and maybe something even worse than the January 6th event.
Not all students are afraid. Another SUNY Oswego junior, Victoria Evanchik, says she's hopeful there won't be any violence.
I'm trying to go into this with high hopes, so I would hope not, but I can't be too sure.
In the future, Evanchik hopes to see more governmental action in the event of violence.
I hope our government doesn't allow it to happen.
The 2024 election feels like it's more than politics. For many, it's about the future of our democracy. The big question, will voters accept the outcome this time? And maybe even more importantly, can we move forward without repeating the violence of our past? Reporting from Oswego, Abby Schomburg.
This year's race holds the potential for historic change, the possibility of the first woman president. A milestone for some, but one day that could trigger backlash in other parts of the country. And right now we're standing alongside our reporter Clarissa Karki. She just got back from the Claudia Tenney election night event. Yeah, how was the environment there? What was it like?
The environment there was quite electric. People were packed. It was outside the streamers here in Oswego, and we could see the excitement fill up in the air. People had MAGA hats, all sorts of really bejeweled accessories. Like I saw a really cute cap with lots of rhinestones with Trump fans on it. People had beer glasses with Trump fans pockets in it, and it was just, everyone was just talking about how close the election was. We had, there was Fox News playing on TV. People were just closely paying attention to what was going on in the race, both in the House, Senate, and the presidential race in general.
It really seems like there was a sense of community there.
It definitely was. People were really talking to each other, chatting up about their past experiences with past presidential elections. It was a really fun environment to be a part of, and there was definitely anticipation up in the air. People were eagerly waiting for the results.
Is there anything that she said in her speech that stood out to you at all?
Well, see, she thanked her family members, her friends, the Oswego community in general. She went on quite a length about how much her family and how much Oswego community has been important for her. She specifically talked about the importance of election integrity and her campaign slogan, "Make voting great again," and how her family urged her to vote ever since she was 16, and how that has been an integral part of her campaign, and how she is urging all the candidates in the future and in Oswego across District 24 to vote in the election. She also talked about the economy, how she is hopeful that Republicans are going to take control of the Senate and the House, and how they're going to, if they do, they want to work on the economy, they want to seal the borders, and bring more jobs and people back to New York. And that was another thing that she really hammered on, how the out-migration of people from New York, and how she wants better jobs in New York so that people can come back in and don't have to leave the state.
Well, perfect. After the break, we are going to go into some celebrity endorsements, but first, we are going to hear from our presidential election analyst, David Rienzo.
Thanks, guys. So we do have 3 new states to declare. Utah and Montana have been declared for Donald Trump, and Colorado has been declared for Kamala Harris. That brings the new Electoral College totals to 198 for Donald Trump and 109 electoral votes for Kamala Harris. But none of these states are nothing surprising necessarily. We can see back in 2020, Joe Biden won these exact same states, plus the swing states of Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. But these are the states that lost Hillary Clinton the presidency in 2016. But everything else is still the same as what we are seeing today. You can see that there's only those 5 differences between 2016 and 2020, and there's no differences between what we have now and any of the other maps. So nothing tonight has been a very big surprise. We are still with those solid red and solid blue states, and we're just waiting for those 7 swing states. Those are going to be key in this election. These are what have been so tight already. Michigan right now is leaning towards Kamala Harris. Wisconsin is now leaning towards Donald Trump, and Pennsylvania is leaning towards Donald Trump as well. So it really all comes down to these 7 battleground states in the Electoral College system. I'll have more on New York State specifically, but I'll have all that after the break, so stay around.
When you look at the number of disasters in the U.S., chances are every area will deal with some kind of emergency in the next decade. And between school, sports, and social lives, chances are you won't be with your kids when it happens. Will they know what to do? Ready.gov/kids has the educational tools and information to make the conversation easy. When the time comes, chances are they'll feel prepared, not scared. So talk with your family today.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. At the tone, please record your message.
Hey, I don't have much time. It's almost here. Listen closely, and whatever you do, don't panic.
Up to Dobson at the point. The cross-ice pass comes to Zakeri, who's going to extend the lead to 3, but the Columbus Blue Jackets, they're not going down without a fight. Puck moves out in front of net.
Welcome back to the best show on WTOP. I'm your host, Miss Meg Trivia, and I'm Donovan.
We start things off in the pool as 4 members of the Oswego women's swimming and diving team have earned all SUNYAC honors. Finally, got that old music back. Welcome live inside the Aurora studio for the newest episode of Sports.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to WTOP-10's live election coverage.
Now it's time for the segment I'm most excited for, our celebrity endorsements. Kenny and I are joined by WTOP-10 reporters, Reilly Jones and Clarissa Karki. How are you guys doing?
Good. Doing all right, yeah. So far, so good.
Well, we did some research on different celebrity presidential endorsements and have each chosen 2 to spotlight. And, well, I'll start off. Well, since I am a sports lover, as you guys all know, both of my picks are athletes that at some point in time played for my favorite sports teams. But let's start off with the former Cleveland Cavalier, LeBron James. Now, James endorsed Kamala Harris for president this past Thursday by posting on X. The choice is clear. James has been an avid supporter of the Democratic Party, endorsing both Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden during their bids to the White House. And my next endorsement comes the way of New York Giants legend Lawrence Taylor. Now, Taylor spoke at a Trump rally in New Jersey this past May. The Giants linebacker stated while at the rally, "I was a Democrat until I met this man right here." Now, Taylor's endorsement joins a class of a few other NFL players who are backing their former president. Now let's hear from reporter Clarissa Karki on who she has chosen for her endorsements.
Well, I picked, but here's one celebrity who has maintained his steadfast support for Donald Trump, and that is Joe Exotic, also known as Tiger King. Joe Exotic is currently serving a 21-year sentence in prison for wildlife crimes and hiring a hitman to kill Carol Baskin. However, he has offered his services as director for Fish and Wildlife Services in a second Trump administration. And my favorite celebrity endorsement would be that of Puerto Rican singer Nicky Jam. Nicky Jam originally endorsed Donald Trump at his rally where the former president misgendered him, saying, quote, "She's hot." Jam later renounced his support for Trump after a comedian at a Trump rally called Puerto Rico an island of garbage. The singer has now endorsed Kamala Harris, so that's quite 180.
Perfect. Now let's hear from Reilly.
It's a switch up for sure. My celebrity endorsement is for the Democratic Party is Dave Grohl. He's a musician known for his important role as the drummer in Nirvana and also the lead man for the Foo Fighters. Mr. Grohl endorsed Kamala Harris back in August after former President Donald Trump used his song My Hero at a rally. Since then, not only has the band endorsed Harris, but also announced that any royalties that their song gets after the controversy will be donated to the Democratic campaign. Now, for my Republican choice, it was supposed to be Dr. Phil, but he actually took back his nomination earlier today. So my Republican pick is going to be Joe Rogan instead. The UFC commentator and podcast host is currently running one of the single largest podcasts in the world. A podcast which has had Donald Trump J.D. Vance, and Elon Musk on as a guests just this week alone. Rogan endorsed the Republican nominee just yesterday, saying on Twitter that his conversation with Elon Musk had the most compelling case for Trump he had ever heard, saying, quote, "For the record, yes, that is an endorsement."
Perfect. Now it's my turn. On to my endorsements. For my Republican celebrity endorsement, it is American YouTuber, actor, and professional boxer Jake Paul. He released an 18-minute YouTube video to express his support for Trump. In the video, he encouraged voters to base their votes on research and truth, and, quote, "not just reckless propaganda of your favorite pop star telling you to vote that way," end quote. And speaking of pop stars, the last celebrity endorsement we will be featuring today is Taylor Swift. On September 10th, Swift posted an Instagram addressing the AI-generated photos of her falsely endorsing former President Donald Trump. She responded saying she will be voting for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz this election cycle. Like Jake Paul, she encouraged people to get out to the polls, saying, quote, "I've done my research and I've made my choice. Your research is all yours to do and the choice is yours to make." Now, Kenny, I'm not surprised at all that you picked sports, guys. I didn't look beforehand, but if I had to guess, I could have done it.
Yeah, for people who have watched WTOP-10 before, they probably know me from Only Sports. This is my first news broadcast. So, yeah, I followed a theme. I picked guys that were on my favorite sports teams on both sides of the political spectrum, and I ran with it. And I like my picks. But, man, you guys had some very, very interesting picks. I mean, we went from pop culture to singers to sports. I mean, we went everywhere. We really did. I think you guys had some interesting takes.
Yeah, we didn't even really coordinate, and I think we really covered a wide range of people, and it really just goes to show that this election affects everyone, and everyone cares, and everyone's involved.
Absolutely. I don't even think I've thought about Joe Exotic since probably the last election, to be honest.
Yeah.
That was a deep cut.
I was actually really excited and surprised, actually, not excited. And the thing that kind of took me by surprise is his offer from within prison to be in the cabinet for wildlife and fishery. I was like, okay, he's in the prison for wildlife mismanagement, so it kind of makes perfect sense to be in the cabinet for wildlife and fisheries, I guess. I'm being sarcastic.
Well, interesting takes all around, and that is all the time we have for at the moment.
Thanks so much, guys, for stopping by.
Stick around after the break for a final check-in with WTOP-10 presidential election correspondent David Rienzo.
Plus, a spotlight on the accomplishments of two presidential nominees here on WTOP-10.
Hey guys, it's me, Isabella Gomez, filling in for Smokey Bear because he's got more to say than just
Only you can prevent wildfires.
like, if you're outside enjoying a barbecue, don't let a hamburger distract you from fire safety. Make sure you aren't dumping your hot coals or ashes onto the ground because that could start a wildfire. So take wildfire prevention seriously and let's save the world one day at a time. Juntos con Smokey Bear, podemos hacerlo. Go to smokeybear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hey, I don't have much time. It's almost here. Listen closely, and whatever you do, don't panic.
Hello everyone and welcome back to WTOP-10's 2024 election night coverage.
I'm Madelynn Cummings and this is Girard. As both candidates look to return to the White House for another 4 years, we already have an idea of what they've been able to do while they've been there before.
Let's take a look at each candidate's prior accomplishments in office.
While in office from 2017 to 2021, Trump's government site boasts a wide range of accomplishments, including a booming economic boom with 7 million added jobs before the COVID lockdowns and deregulation to prevent government overreach into businesses' affairs. The government site list also boasts an increase in American energy independence through the use of America's oil and natural gas potential, becoming a net energy exporter for the first time in 70 years under the Trump administration.
While in the White House as the first woman to be vice president, Harris's government site boasts a range of accomplishments made by the Biden-Harris administration, including a strong economic recovery after the COVID lockdowns, strong solidarity with workers as they've reached to improve working benefits, and a fairer tax system. The administration also boasts large steps to taking on the climate change crisis and increased strength in foreign affairs.
While it'll take a few days to get all of the results in and solidify numbers, here's one last checkup on the polls before we wrap up for the night.
Well, Claudia Tenney, we can see, is still in the lead here at about 60% with 90,000 votes. Wagenhauser is polling at about 40% with about 60,000 votes.
In the 22nd District House race, Mannion is still in the lead. He is polling at 55% with 119,000 votes. Williams is polling at 45% with 98,000 votes.
Flip-flop, flip-flop. Oswego County numbers have now also been counted. In the 50th New York State Senate seat race, Ryan stands in the lead with 56% with 58,000 votes. Perro stands at 44% with 50,000 votes.
Republican candidate Donald Trump is polling at 53% with 198 votes. Democratic candidate Kamala Harris is polling at 46% with 112 Electoral College votes.
And now it's time to go over to our presidential race and analyst, David Rienzo.
David, can you give us one last update before we go for the night?
Any major updates except for Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. has been called for Kamala Harris, so now the race is up to 109 to 198. But we are still on the race for that magic 270 mark. Kamala Harris still has a way to go to that. We are expecting a few more states on the West Coast to be declared for her. And as for Trump, we are still expecting some in the Midwest and well as in the South to be declared to Donald Trump. I want to turn your eye to Michigan right now. Michigan has over 20% of the polls are reported, and it is currently 49 to 49.2, leading its way to Harris. Like I've been saying all night, this is incredibly tight. It's going to come down to only a few 100,000 votes, which I know sounds like a lot, but in the grand scheme of the United States, we have about 50 million registered voters, probably more. So 100,000 really is a very tight margin. This is an incredibly tight race. And again, it is going to come down to those swing votes out in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Nevada, and Arizona. This is really going to come down to those 7 states. We saw in the 2020 election, Joe Biden won by just these 5 states, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and the 2016, that's how Hillary won. So it's really going to come down to those races, and it is going to be a tooth and nail battle all the way to the end, all the way to the wire. That is all for my presidential election. It probably won't be declared for another few hours. We do have a couple more polling locations to be declared. So this probably won't be declared until tomorrow, probably even the next day. So be sure you stay updated on this presidential election, this historic presidential election. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, David, who's done an excellent job tonight breaking down the presidential election.
Now, Kenny, as we start to wrap up, I want to ask, what are your final thoughts on the night?
Well, we've seen a lot of close races. In the local elections, it's been close. We've seen a lot of things that came down tooth and nail. And again, we talked about that flip-flop. It's been flipping and flopping in that race as well. 24th Congressional District looks to be said and done. The 22nd, not so much. And the 50th also looks to be a bit close. So we're seeing a lot of back and forth and back and forth. And as well as coming down to the presidential election, we've kind of seen that early red wave take place on the East Coast and the smaller states. And as well as now we're going to see the West Coast start to come out, and Kamala Harris's vote number is going to go up. And that's where it starts to get really close and really intense. So obviously won't be on air to join you guys to know how this all unfolds, but I think that it's coming down to the wire for this one. It may be down to as simple as one congressional district in Nebraska, or it could even be Pennsylvania. So it's going to be an exciting race to watch.
For sure. Personally, I think Pennsylvania is going to have a huge deciding factor in this election. That's going to be my state to watch. And I just know tonight I'm going to be sitting on my couch watching the TV. I'm going to have it pulled up on my phone. I'm just so excited to see the results of this election. I just think it is so amazing that we get to see this unfold live. It really is a historic election.
I feel like we said history a lot in our generation. I think we lived through a lot of historical events. I mean, you go back to COVID, that was historical. The last 2 elections have been historical. And we saw somebody in 2016 win who no one thought was going to win. We saw Joe Biden take office last year after Trump disappointed in the polls. So it's going to be crazy no matter how this ends, but I think we've got a long and wild ride in front of us. I don't think this one's ending tonight.
I agree. I'm really looking forward to seeing how it all unfolds.
Me too. But thank you for joining us. And that's all for WTOP-10's 2024 election coverage.
Have a great night, everyone.